That is going to be my coffee table. But where is the coffee? There it is. All right. Pants falling down. So if you asked a question last week, a couple of weeks ago, when I mentioned it on Instagram, then you're getting a response. The question is, where are all the questions? So many questions. I've got quite a few here to go through. Is that the first one? We got 6, 7, 8, 9, like 20 questions at least, something like that. What was the first one though? That is the question. This one, here we go. What to shoot? What to shoot? Oh, there's a siren. You have to deal with early morning sounds. What to shoot in Edinburgh? I'm going on a trip soon. I've never been to Edinburgh, despite the fact that I lived in the UK for all the years up until the age of 23, 24. Never went to Scotland, believe it or not. Really didn't go very far north. I don't think I went further north than like Liverpool. So Edinburgh, what to shoot? I know there's a castle. I know you've got a lot of like cobbled lanes, and maybe just do like street photography, something like that. One lens, don't worry about it. Just go out, have fun, shoot. Is Instagram really your main tool for your business or a website? This is a tricky one because a lot of people think that doing what I do, we do collectively, people that make videos for the internet, you need a website. You really don't. Most of the inquiries I get come, if you want to look at it from a business perspective, come from email and DMs. Emails go to my manager and they filter out the good, the bad, they respond to all of them, and then deals come in via that means. Prior to the manager, they came directly to me, and I dealt with them. But I don't like dealing with that stuff. So that's why I have a manager now, Mendy, part of the creative team. So is Instagram really your main tool for your business or a website? Partly, yeah. I don't think you need a website. I have a website. Couldn't tell you the last time I updated it. Really, a website's good for like selling stuff. I don't really sell stuff. So I should, but I don't. From Paul, working on a top-down setup for my desk. Can you share what you found works best? I definitely can, but it is coming in a full video. Essentially, I've gone through many different iterations and variations of a top-down setup, and for me, because I do a lot of top-down vertical content, I also do top-down horizontal content as a B angle to when I'm doing like a talking head like this, when it's a little more formal I guess. You need some form of a crossbar. I've tried the C-stands, they wobble. I've tried mounting things to those arms that stick out. I don't know what they're called. You can get them on Amazon, they're cheap, and they wobble. Even with a sandbag on them, there's a little bit of flex. If you knock it slightly, it falls out of orientation, then you've got to get it perfectly aligned again. That's just a pain. A crossbar that can somehow go between two walls, two Varipoles, you'll see all this when I post the main video. It's something that is fixed, that can be on like a quick release. You can get it perfectly straight, centered, so when you just attach it, it just clips on, it's ready to go. Unclip it, use that camera or something else. That's the best top-down setup you could possibly do if you're looking for like a turnkey, come in, not have to set it up every single time. I hate having to set things up. I like having the least amount of friction just to walk in. That's why I designed this space the way I did. This is probably the first time you're actually even seeing this angle, but that's why I designed this space, to be very turnkey yet modular. Everything is on wheels. You'll see it when the full video comes. What do we get? How much did you buy your camera for? I'm not answering questions like that. You can literally search Google and it doesn't matter. I don't understand the motive behind that question. Is it a good time to get a Sony FX3? What do you recommend? Yeah. Do you need it? The challenge with questions about is it a good time to buy X is people are scared of buying something and then a new version comes immediately after, and they feel like what they bought is no longer A, good, and B, useful, I guess, or has value, or they feel like they've been cheated. I think what you have to really nail down in this situation is, why are you buying it? For what purpose? Like, what are you using it for? Does the FX3 solve an issue that you currently have? Do you need specific features out of it? Do you need that second base ISO? Do you need that small compact body? Do you need a viewfinder? Maybe the FX3 is not the greatest camera. Like, those are all questions you can ask yourself, but ultimately, like, does that camera satisfy what you need? In which case, buy it. There might be a new camera coming. I don't have any information. I don't actually have any cameras right now that I'm, all right, I have nothing under embargo right now, actually. So I don't know if there's anything coming. In my opinion, is there something coming? Yes. When will we see it? I kind of think September, October. Do I think it's an FX camera? I'm not sure. I kind of think it's going to be more like an A7S IV. That's what I'm leaning towards right now. So take that with a grain of salt. That's my personal opinion. But is the FX3 a good buy right now? Yes, if it solves the issues that you are buying it for. Whatever the other camera has, if let's say a new FX camera did come, whatever it ends up being, FX3 Mark II or FX4, you don't know about that camera. You don't know what that camera has. So why are you worried that it's coming? Look at what you have right now. Look at what you need right now. And that's how you should make your buying decisions. Also remember that Sony cameras hold their value very well. Of all the camera companies that are out there, Panasonic cameras do not hold, or Lumix cameras do not hold their value well, unfortunately. You can get them on the used market very cheap a few months after they've come out. Canon cameras generally hold their value pretty well. Fuji cameras, depending on the one you buy, if you somehow manage to strike gold and get an X100 or something along those lines, you'll make money when you sell it if you decide to, if you buy it for retail. But Sony cameras hold their value very, very well. So let's say you bought an FX3 right now, you sell it in a couple of months, you'll probably only lose a couple of $100, maybe the tax you paid on it. So don't think that you're losing money. It's not like a used car where you immediately lose like 50% when you drive it off the lot. Sony cameras hold their value well. And then you can just look at it as, well, you just rented a camera for 3 months for $300, which is a bargain if you look at it that perspective. Looking to get into RE, I'm assuming real estate video. What lens should I get without breaking the bank for Sony? Sony E-mount. Well, you got a few options now. You're graced with third-party lenses. My go-to lenses right now for real estate are the Viltrox 16mm f1.8, and for video, the Tamron 20-40. But that isn't always wide enough, so I'll occasionally throw on the 16mm for video as well. Those are what I use. What are other good options? Budget friendly. Best bang for your buck, probably a 1635 f4 on the used market. You can get those dirt cheap, like the original Zeiss. You can probably get one of those used on B&H for like $500 US. That's probably the best option. The older one we're talking about here, I used that lens for many years. Has optical stabilization built into it, which many lenses these days don't have. That's probably your best bang for buck. Otherwise, maybe the Tamron 17-28, something like that. That's more of a budget-friendly option. I would recommend staying within Sony if you intend to use it for other purposes. I'm graced in that I have a lot of lenses to pick from. Sony lenses are generally a better buy these days. They just work better with Sony bodies. Not to say that third-party lenses aren't good, but you focus breathing compensation, which actually they wouldn't work with that older 16-35. There's a lot of options. There's too many now to just say this is the perfect one. I need to know an exact budget really to narrow that question down, but used, definitely a 16-35 for real estate is going to be something that you would typically use best. What else have we got here? Any recommendations for a sport telephoto lens under 700 US dollars. I get so many recommendations for lenses. Guys, you can just go on YouTube and just search best lens for Sony E-mount XX, shooting wildlife, shooting sports, shooting people. And there's a million videos, some of which are by me, some are by everybody you've already seen on YouTube before, covering these questions. I am not sure why people feel like these questions can only be answered by us. I appreciate that you are asking these questions, but yeah, you can just do some real quick research and figure that out for yourself. But I don't know, $700 USD for Sony E-mount sport telephoto lens. You are probably looking at something you need to be fairly fast for sports, because you're going to be using a high shutter speed, typically speaking. I mean, I love the Tamron 50-400. It's also very budget friendly, but you don't get a low aperture. It's variable. It goes up to 5.6. Maybe Tamron 70-180 f2.8. If you can get that used, that's probably your best bang for your buck. Favorite drone for solo videography. Right now, I really enjoy using the Mavic Air 3 telephoto lens. Once you use a telephoto lens on a drone, it's like using a drone for the first time and just being like, whoa, that looks amazing. You know, the first time you take off a drone, or the first time you saw a drone video, you're fascinated by this new look, this new style of being able to capture video from a completely different view. Well, now imagine that, but it looks telephoto. It is telephoto. It has like a zoom, like a 70mm zoom on it. And you get that compression, you get that beautiful, like, it is just a cinematic look generally. Like, it looks really good. So that's what I like right now. And then also the Mavic Mini 3 Pro. Basically, as long as it can shoot 10-bit 422, 4K 60 for personal stuff, for real estate, those are the ones that I'll use. The Mini 3s, Mini 4s are great for travel because you can typically take them to countries and you don't necessarily always need to have a license. Don't take my statement as fact for every country. Make sure you check the laws before you fly in the country that you're in. What else have we got here? I screenshotted these, so they're like split between pages. So we're on, what are we at now? Taro Ninja's question. I got a Sony A7C, and should I get for it, and should I got a Sony A7C, and should I get for it, and should I get a cage? I'm assuming there's just, you double typed, maybe? Autocorrect massive fail. Should you get a cage for it? For the Sony A7C, I wouldn't personally, unless you really need to rig it out for video. And if that's the case, you probably shouldn't have bought the A7C. It's not bad for video, but there's definitely better options out there. Generally, cages are for video and for rigging things out. You want to put a monitor on it. You want to add extra points of 1/4" 20 threads for attaching things, add weight to it. And the whole purpose of the A7C is that it's a small and compact camera. So you're deviating from that and doing the complete opposite of what the camera is designed for. So I'm not sure why you would want to put a cage on it unless you are shooting video with it, in which case the reasoning for having a cage is to add things to it. If you're not able to do what you need to do, then that's where you put a cage on it. There's so many questions that we get asked and DMs that we asked, and should I do this, should I do that? The way you need to look at camera gear and buying decisions, and if you need to do things and upgrade to things, is not falling for gas, which I do as well. Like, oh, that looks new and shiny, I want it. No. Are you able to do what you want to do with the gear that you have right now? Yes or no? Yes? Okay, you need to learn how to do that first. Buying new gear isn't going to unlock the ability for you to do X, whatever it is. You need to buy that gear. You don't need to buy it. Buying it isn't going to solve that problem for you. Try and learn it on that first. If it can't do it, then okay, that's why you buy something. I need 4K 120, but I don't have 4K 120. It's time to buy a camera that has 4K 120. I'm shooting a lot in low light, but my camera doesn't go or doesn't have a second base ISO 12,800 that allows me to do that, or I'm using a crop camera and it's just not great in low light. Great, time to look at maybe investing in newer body. I'm shooting sports and I only have a 16-35. It's time to look at other lens options. I often find that my audio peaks when I'm recording from a DJ board at a wedding. It's time to look at 32-bit float. Those are reasons for buying camera gear. Not, it's new, I want it. Can you do it with what you have right now? Yes? No? No? That's your reason to buy it. That's when you should start looking at buying it. I want to do a whole video kind of covering that. I just went to Sony. The colors feel dull, or do I just suck at editing? Do you want, I'll give you two answers. I'll rip the Band-Aid off first. You suck at editing. Sorry to say it, but like Sony files, especially if you're working with RAWs, have a ridiculous amount of information and data and color in there that you can basically, the argument that Sony colors suck is it does not exist anymore. It did like 4-5 years ago, doesn't exist anymore. You can make any camera look like any other camera now with the required amount of editing, but that involves time and learning. It goes back to what we just said a second ago of, are you able to do what you want to do right now with the camera that you have? What camera did you buy? Just said I went to Sony. So it's kind of hard to say, but let's assume you got any camera from the past 3 years. The colors do not look dull. You can work wonders with it, but you've got to learn first how to do that. Buying X camera doesn't give you the instant ability to shoot amazing photos. You've got to learn how to manipulate the colors, get it looking how you want it to look, create your own style. Yeah. But the nice answer for you, well, I'm sure they're great. You can maybe go and watch a few videos and make them a bit better for you. I used to work management, and you'd have to sugarcoat the answer for questions that you really just don't want to insult someone. But sometimes it's just easier to, no, you do suck. You need to learn how to do what you want to do. What's the perfect setup wildlife for Fuji and Lumix? Thank you. Well, I'm not sure I'm the most educated person to answer this question, but thank you for asking. What's the perfect setup for wildlife for Fuji and Lumix? Well, let's just put it this way. For Fuji, I have only ever owned Fuji X100, Fuji 5, 6, and XE4. And with the XE4, yes, it was a detachable lens, but I only had that little 27mm pancake lens on there. So, is it a pancake lens? It's a 27mm. Basically to mimic the X100 5 when I sold it, and then wanted it again and couldn't get it. So definitely didn't shoot wildlife with that, and I don't really know what Fuji has in terms of lenses. I know they have lots of options. I know with it being a crop sensor or APS-C, you have cheaper options available to you. For wildlife, you definitely need something in the 200 to 400 mil equivalent, something like that. 70-200 I find isn't enough for the limited wildlife that I tried to shoot. With Lumix, I only have the kit lens from Lumix right now, the 20 to 60. So I don't really know what they have. But probably some good options as well. Sorry, not the best person to answer that. Do you use the Osmo Pocket 3? Yes, I actually do. A fair amount. And I don't post about it. I should have. I missed that train pulling out the station with all those views of everyone jumping on the bandwagon of making videos about that and just rinsing it dry, making a video about every individual feature. All the power to them. I don't do that. I could have made a video about the Osmo Pocket 3. I made a lot of short form stuff about it. But do I use it? Yes. What do I use it for? Pickup shots, for B-roll. My wife uses it a lot for like vlog style content. You can use it for a ton of stuff. I've made a bunch of reels with it. It is a extremely capable camera, and I genuinely believe that you can throw it in with footage from other stuff and people will not be able to tell the difference. My one gripe with the Osmo Pocket 3 is I would love to be able to use that camera with the gimbal turned off, just handheld, locked. I feel like DJI missed a beat on that, not allowing you to do that. I'm not sure how they would do that, like the gimbal needs to be turned on for the camera to work, so that's my one gripe. Also the fact if you're doing roller shots on a car, which you've probably seen me make a ton of reels about, you can't fix the camera to stay. So when you turn, the camera drifts. You need a way to just have it locked. Again, just having it locked, like I just said, would solve that issue. So do I use the Osmo Pocket 3? Yes. That's what I use it for, and my gripes with it. Bag or case for carry-on if you have a 7 kilogram weight limit. Okay. Now, weight limit for carry-on, I've never personally, I need some wood to touch because it's never happened to me. Touch wood. Oh, did you hear that? I think you get an old worm. Ah, oh, yes. Carry-on bag with a weight limit. I am in a very lucky situation in that I get to test a lot of bags. And you get to see really what's good and what's bad, and you get to test them out, and I can normally identify whether I like a bag or not pretty quickly in terms of like functionality, pockets, the way things are designed, tripod things on the arm, on the sides, ways to attach stuff to it. And Nomadic do make the best bags. Yes, I have worked with Nomadic numerous times for a lot of short form content, never for long form content. Nomadic, we need to change that because I am a huge fan of your products. I actually ended up buying my Peter McKinnon 35 litre bag myself, and that thing's not cheap. This was before I started working with Nomadic years ago. I think I spent like, was it $450 on that, something like that. It's not a cheap bag, but you will not regret it. Now that bag is definitely too big for, well, I guess you could use that as your main carry-on. What did you say? You have a case for a carry? Yeah, because it's a carry-on. I use the 25 for my personal items. So yeah, 35 Peter McKinnon for camera bags is absolutely hands down the best. If you're just taking a carry-on bag, the bag to take. You can fit so much camera gear in it. It wears extremely well. I've had it in the snow, in the ice, in the desert, on the salt flats, up mountains. I've slid it down the sides of mountains. You've probably seen that reel. It wasn't a mountain, it was a hill, but it's the same idea. Thrown in and out of cars, slid it into tight spaces. It's gone into overhead things on airplanes, under, well, you can kind of go under the seat if you're in business class, but otherwise not too well. That is the best bag because you can fit so much in it. It has a massive space for fitting a laptop and an iPad in the zipper in the side. I lost my train of thought. You can expand it to make it even bigger, and then you put your clothes in the front there, and yeah, it is by far the best carry-on bag that can fit camera gear and clothes, hands down. Like, as I said, tried a lot of bags, and that's why I prefaced that, and that's the bag that I bought myself. So definitely look at Nomadic. They aren't cheap. I will not be the first person to say that, but I'll be very honest with that, they are not cheap bags, but it's a prime situation of you pay for what you get. I've had mine 2.5, 3 years, something like that now. The only issue I've had with it is the belt buckle, which goes around here, which detaches from the bag. It slides through the back. Entirely my fault. It was hanging out the side when I threw it in the truck, and I closed the door, didn't realize, and it smashed the buckle. Reached out to Nomadic. They sent me through another one. They have fantastic customer service. I know the owner. I know all the guys that work with them, the creative director. They are extremely nice people. Nomadic bags. And in actual fact, that's how I travel now. A lot of people have gone to the trying to take everything just in carry-on, and I, for a couple of years, was like that as well because I didn't want to have to deal with a check bag situation. But what I found now, and keep this between you and me, I don't want everyone else knowing this, the check bag situation is way better these days, and if you get status on an airline, even with Air Canada, just like the basic status level, which you can get just with a credit card, it automatically gets you that. If you're in Canada, I'm sure it's the same in the States, but as soon as you get some form of status, you get a little priority tag added to your checked bag. So it's one of the first that comes out. And the problem and the reason that I started checking a bag again and realized this, that it was quicker to come out now, is that every single time you fly in the States, especially if you're on one of those smaller planes, you hear over the tannoy before you're about to board, ladies and gentlemen, this flight is full. We're looking for 20 volunteers to check their bags. Check their carry-on bags. It will be free. And as a photographer or as a videographer, you hear those words and you die a little bit inside, because you do not want your bag being checked in any way, because otherwise you're carrying all that stuff, all that camera gear yourself when you get on. So you do not want that to happen. So what I was finding is when I had a roller bag and a backpack, and I was taking both and trying to do everything in that, I was just a moving target. As soon as you walk in there, they're like, oh, let's check one of those bags. And then I just don't like having to check a bag now. I don't like having to do that with a carry-on bag, because things might be spread out. I might have a lens in there, wrapped up in a lens bag. I don't have any to hand to show you here, but like the CRD bags, I'll often put lenses in my carry-on prior to doing this. And it's just a worry. So now I just carry the Peter McKinnon 35-litre bag with a couple of spare t-shirts in it, pair of boxers, pair of extra socks in the front there with an emergency toiletry kit, and like toothbrush, toothpaste, that kind of thing, deodorant, and then all the camera stuff, and then that just stays with me. That's all I bring on the plane. And then I check a bag and I can throw in it whatever I want, tripods, you can bring more stuff too, and then that comes out first with a priority tag on it. I walk out the airport and I am good to go. It adds maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I got on a bit of a rant there, didn't we? But yeah. Okay, we got a two-parter here. They questioned twice. I'm using a Sony ZV-E10, one upgrade for photo and cinematic video by the A7 IV, A7C2, ZV-E10 II. For more information, I'm a content creator on YouTube from Hong Kong. ZV-E10 II. Well, is that camera coming out soon? A7C2, A7 IV. For photo and cinematic video, if you're a content creator, either the A7 IV or the A7C2. I'm not going to tell you the reasons why I use an A7C2, which is equivalent of an A7 IV. It's the same sensor. I use a lot of that for my own stuff. Talked about that a lot, been very vocal with it. That's what I'd recommend. Go full frame if you can. There's so many options for lenses now. The lenses aren't always expensive like they used to be. If upgrading, what Sony camera body would you recommend? A7 IV, A7C2, or A6700? I mean, you didn't tell me what you shoot, what lenses you want to use. If you're asking a question, what camera, that's like me just saying, excuse me, what car should I buy? But who are you? What do you do? Do you have kids? Do you play sports? Do you need to carry lots of stuff? We need things to answer. Can't just ask me what camera. All right, what do we got? What is your main camera and what program do you use for color grading? These questions fascinate me because it just, I think, and I appreciate that people ask these questions, but I think people put us on a pedestal that we just don't deserve to be on. Just because I use this camera doesn't mean that's the camera you necessarily should use. It also means that just because I have right now the FX3 with the 50mm f1.2 in this image, this frame, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to replicate this frame without having everything else that I have here. Big light, light off frame, practical light there, other big light there, curtains drawn covering the windows, reflector down here. Like, you don't see all that stuff. Like, just because I have that camera and lens doesn't mean you're going to be able to replicate everything. There's many other parts involved, and I think that's where these questions stem from. People think that they can just do the exact same stuff as what we're doing. It'll get you there to a degree, but there's a lot more involved than just the camera and lens. So I will answer your question, but there's more to it than that. Main cameras I use for video: FX3, A7C2, A7R5. Did you say for video? You didn't. I'm also using the S5 IIX right now for stills, the Fuji X100 VI. I'm using the Fuji GFX 50R, the Nikon ZF. I'm using a lot of cameras right now. Bunch of different lenses. What do I edit with? For color grading, Final Cut Pro. Now, I don't consider myself a good colorist by any means. I'm trying to get better. And I know that I need to jump into DaVinci, and we will. There's never a good time, but we will get there. Thoughts on a hypothetical pro camera like an X100 VI, but with an Instax printer built in? You're getting extremely niche. With a printer built in, it's going to be massive. Absolutely massive. Will that ever get made? Well, it already exists in terms of, like, I think they make a digital one that does have a printer built in, but you're never going to be able to fit all the other tech that's in the X100 in a small body, so I don't think Fuji would ever make that. But thoughts on it? Yeah, but it's very niche. I don't know. It's not a bad idea, but yeah, that's all the thoughts I have. Any insight into... Oh, this is the same person. The same person. James Clark, 1991. I think this is something you want, isn't it, James? Any insight into Fuji Instax's latest Instagram product, teasing a new wide product? I think you're referring to, because this was a few weeks ago, they released a Instax camera, so like a camera that just takes pictures and then prints them out immediately for you. It's not digital. Wow. Yeah, it's not digital, is it? I guess it converts it to digital to print it out, but it's just a wide lens version of that. Elliot asks, what beginner camera would you go for, A7 III or A7 IV, and what lenses for general photos? What is a general photo in this day and age? My idea of general photos and your idea of general photos might be very different. For me, general photos means family pictures and just like an everyday carry camera, in which case a 35mm, 50mm in terms of a lens, A7C or A7 IV. Well, if you have the budget for both, get the A7 IV. It's a newer camera, better color. Just straight out the camera, has more features. Yeah, A7 IV lenses, 50mm f1.8, 35mm f1.8. You can get budget versions of those. Viltrox makes them, Tamron makes them. That's what I'd recommend. General could also mean 16 to 35, f2.8 G Master. Expensive option if you want to go that too, but yeah. How to import gimbal as personal goods from Canada to India. What? How to import a gimbal as personal goods from Canada to India. Am I doing an import-export business now? So you're coming from Canada, you're going to India. How to import a gimbal as personal goods from Canada to India. Just throw it in your bag. Unzip the bag, open it up, find a real good spot for it. Maybe on top of some jeans. Pop the gimbal there, a couple of t-shirts on top of it, close the bag back up, zip it up, mosey on through. I think that answers your question. Like if you want me to actually tell you, like that's how I'd do it. Unless you are saying like in the box, ready to go, new, you want to give it to someone as a gift, in which case there's probably a limit and restriction of how much you're allowed to bring before you're obviously trying to do this to evade some form of rule. So don't follow the rules, maybe, I don't know. A7C2 or A7 IV versus A7C for video. Well, the best one is going to be A7C2 or the A7 IV. A7 IV will be the best. Less issues with overheating compared to the A7C2, but generally speaking, like if you have the screen open, you're not going to have any issues. Spec-wise, extremely, if not identical. There might be a couple of little things here and there, but EVF's better on the A7 IV. But if you're using video, doing video, probably doesn't really make a difference to you. So many camera related questions. I guess that's the channel. Do you think Sony will come out with the A7 V this year? No, not this year, probably next year. Will you be doing a review on the Nikon Z6 III? I really hope so. Well, there's a new one out now, isn't it? Z8 or whatever it is. Maybe. Nikon Canada is weird compared to Nikon in the States. I know, like, my guy for Nikon in the States is great, Jeff. But in Canada, like, Nikon doesn't talk to me, which is very strange. So yes, I hope so. But will there be? Maybe. Oh, I think we did them all. Did we do all the questions? Oh, no, we did not. Oh, we got more. I missed them. All right. You guys let Tight Shirt Terry carry GUNSs. I say that because, well, if you know YouTube, you know why. What was that cool Western shoot about? That cool Western shoot was... How can I explain this? Extremely lucky to be involved with this. So my management company, which is owned by Armando, you know Mondo Bites, Crater, Craterr. There's a bunch of us managed by them. Lee Zavitz, Kofi is, Cam is, Brady is, Connor McCaskill. Who else have I missed? Terry is. We're all managed by them, and I joined them at the beginning of the year. And last year they did, you probably saw a no vacancy shoot. Also, I'm sorry if I missed someone. I probably did. They did a no vacancy shoot where basically they bring all us. I wasn't involved in this one, but they bring people out and they help to be involved in the production of a full-scale production shoot, short film. And that's what this Western one was, called No Good Legend. And it is a Western movie on a, it was called The White Horse Ranch in the middle of the desert in California, about 3.5 hours, 3 hours outside of California. And full production, full crew of 50. We were there to shoot behind the scenes. Kofi and Connor were the A and B cam ops. Brittany, I forgot Brittany. Brady and Brittany DP'd on alternate days. So essentially what is going on is Crater is working with brands to sponsor these productions, and then in turn we make videos and it helps fund the production, and we get to be involved in the making of a short film, properly done on a big set. This one had explosions and gunfights, and it was a lot of fun. And that's what that Western shoot was. I was shooting behind the scenes, as was Lee. Terry was in it. Terry was the sheriff. This video will be put out later today. Posting these the same day. There's no edits on these if you haven't realized by now. And Terry was the sheriff. But that movie's coming out next week, I think, middle of July. But that's what that was. And we're going to be doing more of those throughout the year. The idea here that Mondo has, we can, let's say I wrote a script and I wanted to turn that into a movie. Well, if we get that script developed a little bit, there's full potential that my script could be made into a short film on a big set like that, and I could theoretically direct it if I wanted to. I wouldn't, because I've never had any directing experience, so I'd need to work my way up to that or have someone help me. But that is essentially the big scale overview of what they're trying to do. And it's amazing. I am excited to be a part of it and very thankful. Can you do more videos on the Sony a7C II? Yes, it's coming. What's the best tripod for self-filming short films? Whatever tripod. If you're doing self-films, it's probably a lot of locked-off shots. Any tripod that gets to the height that you need it to get, the lowest point you need it to get, that supports the weight without shaking. There's so many tripods. I mean, if you want me to name one, this is one of my favorites, the Ulanzi and Coman collab. It's carbon fiber. If you put a telephoto lens on it, it has a little shake. If you zoom in at like 600 equivalent when you're in crop mode, it will shake. So that might be the best thing for that, but there's so many tripods out there. Just search on YouTube, best tripod for short films. Solo short films. Favorite lens? It used to be the 24mm f1.4, but I don't find myself using that so much anymore. I don't know right now. I'm going down that weird rabbit hole like a lot of people do after they've been in this a while, where you're kind of wanting a little bit more than the clinical, just generic 24-70, 50mm f1.2. And I'm starting to go into the like manual lenses, so you probably don't want to hear my answers to that. But favorite lens to shoot for stuff like this, generally speaking, 20-40, Tamron 20-40, just because it's so light, you can flick the zoom in and out. I really like that lens. If you ever saw me traveling, that lens is almost always in there. But I am thinking about changing it to a 16-35, something Sony based, because of what we talked about earlier. Breathing compensation, active stabilization, better performance with the Sony lens. That's why. Can you still kickflip? Tai Chi's. Someone knows I used the skateboard. I tried actually quite recently. If I probably tried hard enough, yeah. I can still skate, I can still ollie, not very good, but it's one of those things that like you don't lose. It's a muscle memory, and you don't lose the basic ability to do it. It's just your body gets older, bigger, less agile, and I'd have to relearn some of it. You're also scared of injuring yourself. But yeah, probably could. Best advice for someone picking up photography again after 20 plus years. Why are you picking it up? Follow that route. If you're picking it up because you suddenly started taking pictures of your kids, follow that route. Don't try and start going down other paths. And keep it fun. Keep it for yourself until you find a reason to want to do something otherwise. Top 3 favorite Sony lenses. 24-70, 16-35, 24-70, the trifecta. You have everything covered. You can get those in the new F4 versions, the G Masters. Yeah, I think that's it. All right. Your thoughts on the US DJI drone ban as a Canadian? It's just a lot of politics, and I don't get involved with politics. If it happens, I'm sure DJI will figure out a way to work around it. I'm sure there'll be another company that comes out. But I do love DJI and everything they do and they make. I understand that the people that are making these decisions don't really get it. And I think that plays a big factor in it. Will it affect us in Canada? I don't know. Generally speaking, Canada does follow a lot of what the US does in terms of aviation and laws, so it's very possible. When will we see the ZV-E10 No comment. Walk us through your entire workflow. Oh, goodness me. All right. My entire workflow begins with normally an idea, a camera, a lens, a piece of gear, something that's new. And the way I look at things now is I'm kind of bored of reviews in the traditional sense. So I'm trying to figure out ways to find something interesting or talk about something and make it fun for me. And that way I want to shoot a video about it. So I'll start with an idea or a concept about something, and I'll use notes, Apple Notes. All my ideas are in here. I have a to schedule idea, which is loose ideas, and then I have a videos to shoot folder, and then within there I have script outlines. I don't script entire videos. I have like basic points that I'll then ad lib around. And once I have an idea like fully fleshed out, I will very much concept title ideas. And this is something I started doing last year. I I'm very into the science of YouTube and what works, what doesn't work, how you should do things, what makes a good thumbnail, what makes a good title, and I do factor that into a lot of what I do. And I will often concept a title before I even start filming the video, like, so you know, you have a direction of where the video is going to go and how it's going to end up. And I'll have like 5 different title ideas. And once I've got that down, we'll sit down, we'll shoot. A-roll is over here. It will be the backdrop, which is facing this way, which you've seen in most of my videos. And then from there, just record the A-roll. If it's a basic video and it just requires B-roll, B-roll after the fact, throw it into Final Cut Pro, edit it, color grade it, sound it. Captions are a big thing. Upload it to YouTube. From there, I will make the thumbnail. Now I actually will sketch ideas around the thumbnails, or I'll have like a couple of sentences describing the thumbnail, so I'm mentally aware of what I'm going to be making before I actually shoot the thumbnail. So it's not like I leave the thumbnail to the last thing, because you definitely should not do that. So I'm already thinking about it at the beginning, how the thumbnail is going to look, and then I'll make the thumbnail around that. Upload it to YouTube, post it to my private Instagram, well, not private, but like my Instagram group. If you're in that, the Brockhurst, they get the link first before everybody else, a couple of minutes before, if not longer. Then it goes live, post a story on Instagram, here's the video to that, done. If it's sponsored, it has to go through a sponsorship process, approval process first, get sent to manager, yes, no, do this, do that, change this, you need to add the disclosure in there, like everything has to be by the book, done right, said right. That adds often up to a week. I don't think people understand how much time sponsorship stuff can really delay videos. That's why I try and avoid doing sponsorship segments in embargoes, and I know a lot of people don't, because they like to put it in embargo videos because they get better views, which is better for the sponsor, but there's a lot of waiting sometimes to sponsor stuff. Like even right now, I had a video I wanted to post yesterday. It's a sponsored video on the A7C II, the person asked earlier about when I'm making more content on that, but it hasn't been approved. And now we're getting to the point where it's going to be Thursday tomorrow, then Friday. If it's not approved by, actually I should probably make the thumbnail for that too. If it's not approved by Friday, I won't be posting it until 2 weeks, because next week I already have a video coming out for the Creative Western behind the scenes, which will be really interesting. So yeah, that's my work through. What is each brand good at, and what is a feature every brand is missing? Oh, that is a great question. Sony, in my opinion, does everything the best as like a hybrid. They have all the biggest selection of lenses. They have all the codecs. They have 4K 120 uncropped with the FX3, but they don't have open gate. Panasonic, Sony also has the best autofocus. You can color this stuff really easy with S-Log3, the best dynamic range, the best low light performance, but they don't have open gate. Panasonic doesn't have as good at autofocus. It's getting really good. Low light ability, not quite as good. Still easy to grade. Some great features in Panasonic's, like the S5 IIX. You can do the 65-24 for photos. Has open gate. But with the S5 IIX, you're limited to certain codecs, frame rates for open gate, so I don't see a lot of people talk about that a lot. It's kind of a pain. Canon, I haven't used the Canon in years. I find Canon, I'm interested in that new Canon that came out, the C400, but I just find Canon, there was always too many issues. Beautiful cameras to hold in the hands. Canon does some of the best grips, best user interface, simplest menus, but there was always something up with them. So yeah, I haven't used the Canon in a long time. Canon is the only brand right now that I do not own a camera from. Every other brand I own one. Nikon, what does Nikon do well? Nikon is slowly becoming the new Sony. It's like Nikon changed, well they bought Red, so it was clear that there's some people at the top that needed to shake things up. And they decided to just look at Sony's playbook and copy it. And it's exactly what they're doing with that new camera that came out. Was it the Z8? I'm so bad with camera names. And then they sent a bunch of people to Utah and they filmed a bunch of stuff when they're in Utah. Nikon is just taking Sony's playbook and executing it perfectly. And this camera that just came out is like their version of the A7 III. This is a huge launch for them, and you're going to see a lot more people use Nikon. Nikon also does colors really nicely, like straight in camera without any tweaking. And their ZF camera is one of my favorite cameras I've ever used in the past few years. So Nikon does that really well. Fuji, film simulations. Cameras that feel and look amazing. Marketing. What does Fuji not do very well? Staying on top of orders. Getting things into people's hands. They're really slow at production, like really slow. You would think that with the demand for some of the cameras that they have, they would just ramp up production, but they don't. It's like they want to have a supply and demand problem because it's good for business, and I think it is good for business, but I don't know how long that can last. Basic gear to film interview and interior light, ND filters, sound. Basic gear to film an interview, 1 camera, 2 cameras maybe, 2 cameras probably, yeah, AB camera, camera face on, camera from the side, a couple of lights, or 1 light and a reflector, or daylight and a reflector. Microphones, lapel mic. I'm wearing a lapel mic right now. You don't have to use 32-bit float. You can get set of lapel mics with wireless mics now for like $100. Tripod, light stands, sound bags. Best bang for buck MacBook for content creator, MacBook Air. Just get one of the basic MacBook Airs. They'll handle most of what you throw at it. When you start getting into multi-layer tracks of video editing, it will slow down, but MacBook Air, generally speaking, will cover most of what you want to shoot and edit. How do you reach camera manufacturers as a YouTuber to test out their cameras? You don't. They'll reach out to you. You can reach out all you want, but generally speaking, you have to wait for them to reach out to you, for them to send you embargo links, for them to send you products. Yeah, you could try reaching out. That's never how I did it. I got reached out to people. Curious about photo licensing. Me too. I don't know. That's not a question, that's a statement. Another statement? That's the end of this video.